Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Committee on General Government Operations and Appropriations is now called to order. Today is Wednesday, May 8th, and the time now is 2 p.m. In compliance with open government law, the notice for this public hearing were posted on the Guam Public Notice Portal, GTA TV Channel 21 and Docomo Channel 117, and disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Monday, April 29th, and on May 6th. The bills that we'll be hearing today is Bill 277-37 LS, introduced by Senator Will Parkinson, co-sponsored by Senator Amanda Shelton, Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munoz-Barnes, Senator Tom Fisher, Senator Dwayne Snickers, and Senator Roy Canata. An act to appropriate $15,828,000 from the fiscal year 2024 general fund revenues collected in excess of the adopted levels enumerated in Public Law 37-42 as amended to the Guam Power Authority for a 3-month extension to the AYUDA para TAOTAO-TA Energy Credit Program relative to providing customers with $300 credit towards their account. Also, Bill 268-37 in COR introduced by my Vice Speaker, Senator TAOTAO-TA, and Senator Joanne Brown, an act to add new section 67111 and 67112 and 67113 to Article 1 of Chapter 67 of Title 10 of the Guam Code Annotated relative to the services provided by the Office of the Veterans Affairs. Also, Bill 285-37 LS, introduced by myself, Senator Snoxing, co-sponsored by Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munoz-Barnes, Senator Dwayne Snickers, and Senator Roy Canata. An act to appropriate $1 million from fiscal year 2024 general fund revenues collected in excess of the adopted levels enumerated in Public Law 37-42 as amended to the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs relative to increasing services and operation. We will now begin with Bill 277-37. Fiscal note was requested on April 24th, was received and disseminated by the Committee on Rules on May 1st. Those participating in Bill 277-37 are invited to the panel. And you know who you are. GPA, come on up. Okay? General rules for this public hearing and for the other 2 bills. Please provide my legislative staff with any document for photocopying and distribution. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for questions or additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in a removal from the public hearing room. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from participating and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me this afternoon. We have Speaker Therese Terlai. We have my Vice Chair, Senator TAOTAO-TA. We have the author of Bill 277, Senator Will Parkinson, and Senator Chris Duenas. And with that, I'd ask Senator Parkinson to give his opening introduction of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bill 277-37 aims to extend the PRUGRÅMAN AYUDA y TAOTAO Energy Credit, the program for the help of our people. This program, crucial to many, provides a $100 monthly credit on power bills, and I am proposing to continue for an additional 3 months covering April, May, and June. Since the inception of the program, it has delivered over $110 million directly to the citizens of Guam, significantly mitigating the economic impacts of the rising cost of living. With the proposed extension, the total aid distributed will reach $125 million over 24 months. All of this coming from excess tax collection. taxes above what was projected and budgeted for in fiscal year 2024. Fundamentally, surpluses should go back into your pocket, not used to grow government. Power credits have proven to be the fastest and least complicated way to give surplus money back to the people. Started by the chairman, Senator Agustin, and continued by Speaker Therese Terlahi and myself. Together with the whole legislature, we were able to give the surplus back in power credits for 21 months in a row, just as surplus is realized in government accounts. Right now, we stand at a crossroads. We can either let our people drown under the weight of soaring expenses, or we can lift them up with the support they desperately need. We have a surplus. We have a surplus, and it's high time we returned it to its rightful owners, the people. The recent CRER shows 21 million in unobligated surplus revenue as of March 2024, underscoring that there is a surplus available to continue this program. Each ratepayer has already received $2,100 from this subsidy. And with the proposed extension, this amount will increase to $2,400 per ratepayer over 2 years. Bill 277-37 is a lifeline for many and is the front line in our battle against the rising cost of living. The choice we face today is clear. We can either allow our constituents to continue to struggle under the burden of increasing costs, or we can step in and provide the support they desperately need. With a significant unobligated surplus, the continuation of this program is not only feasible, but necessary. So I ask my colleagues for their support in this measure, and I ask for the people to support me in this measure. And with that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Parkinson. I'd like to also recognize a colleague that joined us, Senator Sabina Perez. We have on the panel, we have Maripaz Perez, and we have Tracy Limtiaco, and I've got Director Joseph Agustin. Were you going to testify on this bill or no? Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Now between the two ladies, who would like to start off first? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator Agustin. Thank you, Speaker and Senators, for being here. I am Tracy Limtiaco, Assistant Manager of Administration at GPA. I have with us Maripaz Perez. She is our Assistant CFO at GPA. I'm here to read into testimony GPA's testimony in support of Bill 277-37. A paper copy has been provided to you, and the e-copy has been sent as well. So Hafaday, and again, thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of Bill 277-37 LS. The Guam Power Authority supports the efforts to extend the PRUGRÅMAN AYUDA para TAOTAO-TA Energy Credit Program from April to June 2024. We appeared before this body in July 2022 to lend our support of Bill 325-36, now Public Law 36-106, creating the Energy Credit Program. The Guam Power Authority's support of the initial legislation and the extensions thereafter stemmed from the sharp increase in fuel oil prices that were impacting the overall costs of goods and services, including the cost of electric service on Guam and worldwide. Power utilities factor the cost of fuel into the per kilowatt hour energy cost sold. On Guam, the cost of fuel must be a pass-through to ratepayers. For GPA ratepayers, this is displayed on billing statements as the Fuel Recovery Charge, also known as the Levelized Energy Adjustment Clause, or LEAC. In July 2022, the cost of fuel oil skyrocketed to over $145 per barrel, compared to $80 in the previous year. World oil prices have declined since July 2022, but have not normalized. Also provided in the testimony is a short table showing the Platts spot prices, Singapore MOPS, for the ultra-low sulfur diesel monthly averages. And you'll see in that table that in July 2021, the cost then for ultra-low sulfur diesel, or ULSD, was $79.86 per barrel. In July 2022, a year later, the price of that same barrel of oil skyrocketed to $145.34. The next year, July 2023, the price of that same barrel was $101.76, and in April of 2024, not July, that price has decreased to $104.71, but it is far off from the $80 average from July 2021. The cost of energy for Guam's ratepayers has also been impacted by GPA's transition to cleaner burning fuel in 2022, when the PD baseload units switched to ultra-low sulfur fuel and Cabras baseload units switched to ultra-low residual fuel oil. The transition to cleaner but more expensive fuel was necessary to comply with the federal and local environmental regulations. In planning the fuel transition, GPA anticipated that the less expensive energy produced by the 60-megawatt utility-scale Mangilao solar farm would offset the cost of the more expensive clean fuel and result in fuel cost savings to ratepayers. The spike in worldwide fuel oil costs beginning in 2022 overshadowed the anticipated fuel savings. And in the written testimony, we have provided you with a chart labeled Fuel Prices Landed Cost Progressive Chart. A larger copy of this chart is attached to the testimony because it's very hard to read. On the chart, you'll see that the fuel oil prices are there. There is a legend on the bottom, and the specific cost, the specific fuels we're looking at is ultra-low sulfur diesel, as well as the ultra-low UL or LS RFO. In shaded bars or columns, you'll see that we've highlighted the areas that the previous or the initial energy credit program covered, as well as all of the extensions thereafter. So you can see how this energy credit has really impacted and has helped mitigate these high fuel prices. GPA projects a significant reduction in the quantity of fuel oil required to generate energy by 2026 with the commissioning of the Ukadu power plant, and again in 2027 with the commissioning of approximately 300 megawatts of utility-scale solar farms and the addition of utility-scale energy storage systems. We are working diligently and expeditiously to achieve these milestones that bolster Guam's energy resilience, reliability, and affordability. Additionally, GPA continues its efforts to engage and educate the community on energy efficiency and conservation through energy usage tools, cash rebates, and links to energy and/or financial assistance programs. Energy efficiency and conservation reduces energy consumption, resulting in a lower power bill. Air conditioning units account for the largest energy consumption in a typical household. Ensuring these units are cleaned and maintained will reduce consumption. Replacing inefficient units with high SEER inverter units will lower energy consumption, but it is a major purchase for most households. Cash rebates for qualified appliances are available through GPA's Energy Sense program. Adjusting thermostats on air conditioners, water heaters, using blinds or curtains to block window heat, and pressure washing rooftops are other low-cost ways to reduce energy consumption. Unfortunately, these energy conservation measures alone are not enough to offset the economic impact from the current inflationary pressures. The $100 energy credits applied to qualified accounts for billing periods July 2022 to March 2024 have been welcomed financial relief to offset the high cost of fuel. As we approach the height of the summer season, the temperatures and energy consumption will soar, resulting in higher energy bills. A further extension of the PRUGRÅMAN para AYUDA TAOTAO-TA will certainly benefit and be appreciated by the ratepayers. Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to provide this testimony from GPA, specifically from its General Manager, John Beneventi, today.
Thank you, Ms. Limtiaco. Ms. Parrish, were you going to give any testimony, or that one was good, right?
That's it.
Okay. I'd like to also recognize Senator Brown has joined us this afternoon. Madam Speaker, do you have any questions for the panel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your testimony, Tracy. And so when GPA, well, you know, of course I support this credit to go to the people. We've got this money, but it's because of the cost of power, right? And so when you, on your page 2 of your testimony, talked about you're projecting a significant reduction in the quantity of fuel oil required by 2026 with the commissioning of the new plant, also the solar farms and the utility scale energy storage systems. Will this result in decreased rates?
I'm sorry, Speaker. Yeah, we project decreased use of oil, purchases of oil in general. So with using less oil through the new power plant, and although the projection is that we're going to use less oil for the new power plant beginning in 2026, that's because the commissioning is in September of 2025. So we will not see anything significant in 2025. The power plant, as you've heard John B. explain in multiple times, it's a very efficient unit using ultra-low sulfur diesel. We'll be able to burn the same amount of fuel but produce more kilowatt hours. So that's important. So we use less fuel to produce the same amount or greater energy. Coupled with that is the projected commissioning of what we call Phase 4 renewable energy.
But
and
how would these impact our bills?
Your bills. So one, we will order less ultra-low sulfur diesel. Second, we will not have to order the very expensive low sulfur residual fuel oil that Cabras 1 and 2 are burning, because they will retire. So your LEAC will go down.
Is that for sure? Like, is that what you've presented to the PUC? Is that like somewhere we can say is pretty much guaranteed?
That is what we're projecting. Mayor Paz?
By how much?
So, Speaker, with the current LEAC rate, just looking at it, and let's say if the LEAC with the new power plant, we project between 13 to 16 cents, that could equate to about between $100 to $130 potential savings as of the when we did our initial calculation using the current LEAC rate, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, but based on the that's the average 1,000 kilowatt hour consumer.
Okay, great. So average bills would be reduced by $130 of LEAC costs that we're seeing right now.
Yes, using the current LEAC and our projection as of like what we have right now, the information.
That's what I wanted to know, because I'm hoping we can continue this if kind of like until you get this new plant online and we are able to reduce those costs. So then that would be built into their bills, and we wouldn't have to put a credit over there from the general fund. My other question is, we recently passed a law allowing GPA to refinance one of its bonds, I believe, and they were predicting that that would bring them savings. Is GPA able to use the savings from that refinancing to fund this as opposed to from the general fund?
I'm going to refer to Tamara Paz. She's been working with our CFO and John B. on that.
So right now, Speaker, the intent of the savings really is to go back to fund CIPs and for the new power plant. But I believe the GM, after our session, I guess they're going to revisit and to see how we can actually better directly give it back to the ratepayer. So he was open to that idea.
What amount of savings are you expecting?
I'm sorry?
What is the amount of savings you're expecting from the refinancing?
So based on our discussion when we presented last time, it was about, I believe, 2.9 million total, about 211,000 per annum. But that is, again, subject to change. We did have our status meeting today, and with our, with Gita, and they did share that the market is looking better, so we could potentially realize higher savings when we go out in July.
Right, and did you say 2.9 total over?
Over the life, but the per annum would be 211,000.
Okay.
That was as of
So
our.
that won't fund this.
Yeah.
All right, okay. So this is 15 million, the reason I'm asking is because this is 15 million out of the general fund. This is a huge amount. There's so many competing bills that want to use this excess funds. And so, of course, if we could clear some of that money up for other uses, that's, of course, what I would like to do. But if not, then, yeah, that doesn't seem to be enough to cover this. All right, Citas Masti, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to also recognize additional colleagues that have joined us, Senator Frank Blouse and Senator Barnett. Now I would ask my Vice Chair, do you have any question, Senator Tello?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to my colleagues, and good afternoon to those here to testify. Hi, Tracy. Now, actually, the question I had was how much of that refinancing? Of course, it's $2 million. Can you kind of elaborate? It's $2 million per year of savings, and how many years do you anticipate the $2 million in excess every 2 years of savings?
So, Senator, the 2 million actually is the total life. So, but the per annum, per year is 211.
Oh,
but
okay.
it's a moving
211.
target.
Right.
And based on our meeting today with Gita and the rest of the team, it looks like the market is going to be better around July.
Okay.
So we're hoping that it'll be slightly more than that, the savings.
When you say slightly, are we talking about in the hundreds of thousands or millions?
We're looking at maybe about, right now, they kind of shared about 4.5 to 5 million in total.
Okay.
So that's
it's
divided by,
100,000.
yeah.
It's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
How much do you have in balance of those tax power credits that were not utilized, or we know that it was not transferred because, for instance, an apartment building, they have their power bill and then they move to another one. It can't follow them to the next apartment. And it doesn't stay at that apartment either. It's based on the individual, the name of the consumer on the bill. So how much do you have in that excess?
So far, Senator, for the Public Law 3766, that's from the months of January to March 2024. We haven't completed our final recon review, but we're looking at about 104,000 that we're going to return back to Department of Administration. But from the prior public laws, we've returned those pretty much towards the end of every public law back to DOA.
Okay, so we have done this for almost 21 months.
Yes.
Total, giving $100 credit. So how much total from that time? I mean, okay, we won't count this last one because we're still in it while you're, accumulating that data. But the other 18 months.
So we're looking at about 439,000 that was already returned.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was returned.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. That's still not enough. I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at the fiscal note. And for the listening audience, I just wanted to read out for the record, for everyone who's listening, that we had an excess in the CRER report for $21 million. That was substantial. That probably would have covered this bill. But the legislature just finished session and passed a bill that would give DOC to build their new facility $15 million. 15. So you take 21 and you minus by 15, you come up to only $6 million left. And that's not talking about the other bills that are up there, like this bill, the next bill coming up. So we're looking again, 21 million in excess revenue that's unaudited, unaudited. Now last year, or the year, I think it was the year before, we had an excess revenue of $62 million. After the audit was completed, they only found $32 million. So any accountant will tell you that it's important to keep a certain amount of funding at the end of the fiscal year, because the audit could have, when you do an audit, there's usually something missing, less, maybe a little more, but not that much. So it's always safe to do that. So once again, CRER was reporting 21 million. We just passed a bill for 15 million, leaving only 6 million plus left over. And I don't know about you, but I've got a bill coming up next that I want to make sure there's funding for. So I do know it's important. The people do need it. I'm not against it, but we have to find the money. Where is the money? I don't want to put false hopes up there. I mean, this is a great election campaign right now to say, hey, another 3 months of $100 to everyone. But it's irresponsible when we do that when you're knowing there's no money there. And I just explained it to you. And this is from BBMR. So I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, ladies, for being here to testify.
Thank you, Senator Tadui. Senator Duenas, do you have any comments or questions for the panel?
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for GPA showing up today. And certainly, I concur that this program has been very effective for the people and also in mitigating the costs enumerated in GPA's testimony. However, I want to make sure that I follow on with my colleagues' comments that were just read or spoken into the record. Aside from the $15 million for DOC, the actual total, and this, ladies and gentlemen, and people listening in the audience, while I certainly support this proposal, it's important to note that the Office of Finance and Budget and BBMR are in sync in terms of enumerating all of the bills that are currently either heard or to be heard, and the amount of money that's proposed to be appropriated. So the actual variance between the competing bills is $55 million worth of appropriations. When you remove the $21 million, or excuse me, the $15,800,000 proposed in this bill, you have $34 million in appropriations that are waiting to be either heard or placed in for voting. So the competing variance is $34,187,000. The other issue, and I wanted to make sure that people understand, this is why many of us asked for a public hearing on this bill, because we're getting close to the end of the fiscal year. I want to read into the record also, this was a Pacific Daily News article on March 29, 2024. Proposed budget sees GMH losing $42 million in fiscal year 2025. And this is the exact quote from Yuka Hachinova. GMH is on track to close the current fiscal year with a $26.8 million loss. Hospital Chief Financial Officer Yuka Hachinova told trustees, bringing the combined shortfall for fiscal year 2024 and 2025 to a projected $69.3 million. That's even after the total of $50 million in taxes, fees, and grants and money that was pumped into GMH. And we did a $30 million appropriation from this legislature. So I wanted just to get on the record, and I guess in the committee of the whole, we can make sure that we ask GMH to either write us a letter or appear before us to state for the record that this $26.9 million shortfall will not affect their operations. And all of us who might need services at the hospital will not have difficulty because they're short of any supplies, medications, or repairs, or anything that's required to be able to provide critical health care to our people. As long as those things are taken care of and it's placed on the record, once again, because we are coming to the end of the fiscal year, and it is true, the audited finances may be increasing expenses that the government owes to vendors and other agencies that may be seeing shortfalls. that could, skew the balance. But aside from that, I want to assure not only everyone here today, but the people listening, I'm fully prepared to vote in favor of this bill because it is one of the best and fastest ways to get money to our people in terms of refunding their taxes. However, I think all of you and everyone listening in our community would concur that the government must be fiscally responsible as well and take care of its critical needs to take care of its people, whether it's GMH, whether it's Guam Police Department, shortfall in manpower and automobiles and other things. The list goes on, and like I said, this $30-some million, cumulative competing interest, along with the 26 million, is really close to almost 60 to 70 million just in that presentation alone. So as long as those things are accounted for, and during the Committee of the Whole, we can get assurances that those will not affect public services, I'm prepared to support this bill 100%. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. Senator Paris, yes, Senator Paris? Omapus? Pues then that will be Senator Brown. No, Senator Brown, you're next. Yeah, Senator Barnett came later after Senator Bloss. You're it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I certainly appreciate the testimony by the Guam Power Authority and certainly their assistance in facilitating getting this credit out to our people. I mean, we've all, appreciate it because we've all benefited from it. I have to tell you, these are the lowest bills I've had in my life, and I'm going to enjoy it because I'll never see it again. But I also echo the comments of my two colleagues in assuming that BBMR, when they come before us in the Committee of the Whole or when they come before us and testify on any other additional financial issues, if they're being honest and truthful with regards to what the actual state of our government is, because last time legislation like this came before us, we were told over and over, and we asked the question. I'm pretty direct, so I can ask a direct question and want a direct response. And we were told, oh, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money. And then the governor signs the bill and miraculously there's money. So sometimes you've got to wonder. We certainly recognize the importance of keeping the Guam Power Authority operating, but it's really a question, is the money there to continue this program? I think we all know that it's a benefit we've had, but we probably may never see again. It's just the fiscal realities of where we are, and as time goes on and as we sit through these budget hearings, we're finding, really critical pockets in this government that we are not funding, that we're not providing revenue to. I mean, it could be from the Guam Police Department, who doesn't have enough incentive to keep their police officers in place or hire new ones, or what we most recently heard from Department of Education, even though now we hear that they're going to be able to fund these one-on-one aids that assist our children with disabilities, or our conservation officers, or our park police that don't have overtime to do their job out there in the community so that our people feel safe. So, and then now, we hear again, once again, the Guam Memorial Hospital, never ending, no matter what administration. I mean, I've said this before, it doesn't matter who's governor. We're not seeing anything different with how the Guam Memorial Hospital is being managed or how the finances there are being addressed or if they're being prioritized at all. It doesn't appear to be that way. So that'll be another challenge that we will have to address moving forward. And certainly, I think it's wonderful if the money's there. But, the reality is everything that goes up must come down, and the pandemic is over. The military buildup is going to level off, and this government is costing far more to the people of Guam than it did a couple years ago. And as I've mentioned time and time again, I don't know how you can make long-term obligations on short-term revenue. And what we've experienced, while it's unprecedented, we've never had this much money flowing into the government. It's not going to continue. The ride is coming to an end, and where do we move from there? So, I mean, we have to make tough decisions, but we also have to make responsible decisions, and my focus is sustainability. If we're going to offer something, can we continue to pay it? Because people will make long-term decisions based on that. It might be going to purchase a car, it might be purchasing a house, whatever the case may be, where, you're financially obligated for a long period of time. And if we're going to give it, then we got to make sure we can provide it and we can pay the bill at the end of the day. We have to be responsible with regards to that. So again, I appreciate your testimony. It'd be interesting to see what the numbers actually are moving forward. But I think that's really the issue. The issue is, can the people of Guam afford this moving forward? It was a campaign promise right before the election, and that was 2 years ago. So I assume it served its purpose. We all appreciate it, but you know, the issue is, can we continue to sustain it and still address other critical needs and operations in this government? So with that, Mr. Chair, I don't have any further comment. Appreciate Guam Power Authority coming here this afternoon and providing their testimony.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Frank Blouse, do you have any comments or questions for the panel? None. Senator Barnett? None? Okay. Senator, what? Go ahead.
I just want to thank the panel for being here. And, you know, we're going through this rigmarole and all these exercises to find out if the money's there, what color can we use. And, you know, I just again have to say we have used the ARP funds for just about everything under the sun. We've used it to procure assessment of our property, right? We've used it to hire all kinds of people. Yeah, bush cutters. So I just feel like somewhere in the final rule there has to be an allowance for using ARP money for this energy credit. You know, I mean, I'm just going to put it out there, and then again, I encourage the governor, lieutenant governor, to seek a solution with the use of the ARP funds if that's possible. But you know, also I think it's a matter of priorities. I mean, we read the news. The priority seems to be let's hire everybody we can and give them $10,000 raises, while the people of Guam are asking the legislature to give them $100 a month in relief. So you guys see the facts, they're right in front of your face, and just don't forget that come election time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Parkson, do you have anything to make closing before I give final comments and end this hearing?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank the panel for coming out and supporting Bill 277, which aims to extend the $100 energy credit for another 3 months. I would be remiss if I did not give praise to my colleagues, Senator Agustin and Speaker Therese Terlahi, for being the original author and of the original $300 power credit and its extensions. I'm able to put forth this bill in the speediness in which I have because I'm standing on the works of giants that have come before me. And I echo the sentiments of Speaker Terlahi that if we could, I would like to continue this program until the new plant comes online and we see that marked adjustment in everyone's fuel usage and power bills. In government, it's always very rewarding when we have opportunities to show compassion and help the people in such a direct way. If this bill passes, that will be $125 million in help. That is what the 37th Guam legislature has done. That for the people listening, that when the leadership of this legislature had an opportunity to grow government with more hiring and more reoccurring expenses, they chose to give it back to the people. And the previous speaker is correct. We may never see this again, perhaps in the rest of our lifetimes. And if that is true, then I will be proud to be part of that legacy. If that is the legacy and what we remember about the 37th Guam legislature, then I am proud to be part of that. So, we'll take this 3 months at a time if we have to. I hope this one passes, and I hope we can continue this on till the new power plant comes on. And if my colleague is right, and we never see this again, then no, the 37th Guam legislature fought to put money back into the people's pockets with this surpluses every opportunity we got. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chair. With that, I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much, Senator Parkinson. There being no one else to present testimony in this bill, this hearing is now concluded. I want to thank everyone for attending this hearing and providing feedback and suggestions. Bill 277-37 LS. Public hearing is now adjourned. The time now is 2:40. We will now, and we'll now take a 5-minute recess so we can get ready for Bill 268. Thank you. Good afternoon. We have now returned. We will now hear on Bill 268, that's 37, introduced by Senator TAOTAO-TA, co-sponsored by Senator Joanne Brown, an act to add new sections 67111 and 67112 and 67113 to Article 1 of Chapter 67 of Title 10 of the Guam Code annotated relative to the services provided by the Office of Veterans Affairs. The fiscal note was provided on April 16 and disseminated to all the senators via Committee on Rules on April 29th. A reminder of the general rules for this public hearing. I don't think I need to read it all. Same folks are still here. And I would like to, my colleagues are all still here, so other than Senator Parrish, so we'll just move along. I'd ask Senator Tello to provide her testimony, and just like to recognize the following folks that are there to testify. We have Nick Francisco, Joe Mofnas, Ginger Cruz, Director Jose San Agustin, and Ralph, is that Tahaji? Turlai, okay. And when we begin, you folks decide who starts, but we'll have Senator Tello first give her opening statement on her bill, okay? So stand by. Senator Tadwi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this measure is introduced by myself as well as Senator Brown, so she'll also do an opening remark as well. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for hosting today's hearing on Bill 268. And thank you, everyone, for being present today, both to testify and who's submitted written testimony to the committee. In today's political climate, our people endure years of repeated delays and lack access to adequate health care. Even for the most capable, receiving medical services can be painstaking and often nearly impossible. Our veterans are among the most vulnerable in our community who battle these challenges. While medical services for veterans have been included in Guam's healthcare improvement plan, they have never been the priority in its development. Rather, improvements of veterans' medical services will be the byproduct of overall development. Until then, our veterans are left with inadequate assistance and care today. Bill 268 offers a solution to the delays and critical care our veterans are currently deprived of. My co-sponsor, Senator Brown, and myself, this bill is the result of countless discussions with veterans about their needs and how the government should assist them again now, today. One of the most common concerns raised is the need for sufficient accommodative healthcare services. Many veterans struggle with scheduling appointments, managing records, and access medical facilities and pharmacies, as well as transportation. Despite healthcare being critical and crucial and available to everyone, veterans often face additional hurdles. Many are disabled, elderly, or lack adequate support. Although we have a Veterans Affairs Office, its resources are limited and are currently unable to provide sufficient accommodations. Our goal is to enhance the office's capacity so that our veterans can receive the assistance they need, and certainly sooner rather than later. I thank you for this opportunity, and I now turn it over to the other sponsor of the bill, Senator Brown.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Certainly thank you to our chairman. I won't have too much more to add. I think Senator Tello articulated the main points of the bill, but after all these years, and it's been many, I mean, the Office of Veterans Affairs really started out as a collateral duty during the Ada Blas administration, when John Blas was the only one operating the office, with Miss Cindy as his assistant. And while it's grown a little bit over the years, we still, and as recently as a few weeks ago, heard the concerns from the veterans community with regards to the level of service and outreach that's being provided And I think we recognize that there's more that certainly can be done. And this is an area of tremendous need. I mean, I know, and I've mentioned this before, I myself have not served, but my dad was in the Navy, retired, and he, in the course of his life and the service that he rendered to our community in the Riverine Force in Vietnam, he eventually was determined to be 100% disabled as a result of his service-related work that he did. That very much affected him later in life. And I recognize the challenges many veterans go to because I've had to deal with it as a family member myself, and especially when our cases are handled out of Hawaii. It took 3 times, 3 initiatives, 3 mailings of documentation and follow-up, numerous appointments with doctors for them to provide verification. Even though my dad suffered from PTSD, he never used that as a reason or an explanation to eventually get his 100%, and it was pretty much determined as a result of his physical condition that really limited his quality of life later in life, that he actually was able to finally obtain his full veterans benefits. And I'm glad he did, because now that he's passed away, my mom is able to receive the benefits that he has left for her as a result of his service-connected disability. And that's so important. I mean, back in the day, really the only services, what limited services were provided by the Veterans Affairs Office was there. And then we had other organizations and other veterans that have received, were able to get through the winding process of getting support to actually help other veterans and volunteer in the community. And now we have a number of nonprofit organizations, but in spite of that, we still see that the need is there. And this is the way, definitely, while the government can't do and be everything, we have such a sizable veterans community on Guam, and we hear your voices because we recognize that even after all these years, including all your service, our government is still not providing assistance where you need it the most. So we certainly hope in the course of this legislation, of getting it through and other support legislation, that we can have a Veterans Affairs Office that really can do true outreach and assistance to our veterans in an area where you need it the most during a time when you absolutely need it the most. So Senator Tello and I, a number of us, I mean, we're both children of veterans, and she's the Air Force and I'm the Navy. But we recognize, we've experienced the challenges that you're going through as family members, and we think our government can do more. And this bill is just one way to move that forward. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to provide a comment.
Mr. Chair, if I may, there was one thing I'd left out. Earlier, we had testimony of, well, not testimony, we provided information about the CRER report. There is 21 million minus the 15 that we just passed, so there is 6 million. So this bill is only asking for $340,000. So there is money in the account for this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tyree. Now we will proceed to the panel. And I'm going to safely assume the director is going to start out, and then we'll move along to you folks decide who's next, and then we just continue on. Uncle Joe, okay. Director.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, Madam Speaker, honorable senators, Senator Brown, Senator Tello, who's the author of this bill. My name is Joe San Agustin. I'm the director for the Guam Veterans Affairs. I thank you for allowing myself and our veterans and spouses to be here this afternoon to testify on behalf of this bill. I myself is here to testify in support of this bill. I want to reverse probably 3 weeks where there was a joint hearing where many of the veterans came in here and pleaded their case for the need of more services. Those were comments, events, and issues that were brought up that are very much welcome into my world, into my community. This here bill that's being introduced is one of the many that should have been done years ago. The fact of the matter is the language on the bill is solely the responsibility of the federal VA, the community-based outreach clinic, or the vet center, Dr. Santos. I welcome this piece of legislation to be passed so that I'm able to have a liaison division or personnel within my office that can reach out, help those that are in need, help the Manancos, help those veterans that at one time were good citizens, but because of their service and experiences of challenges that they endured in their service, they were discharged for reasons unknown and now are not getting compensation or any type of help. I say this because I'm desperate to get this program off the ground. I've been brainstorming on how to actually form it and how we're going to continue to communicate with the community-based outreach clinic, the vet center, which is Dr. Santos, mental and behavioral, and more so Hawaii, because now I'm starting to enter into their world. And it's good for me. It's good for us, because these are the areas that we are lacking the help locally for us to be able to help our local veterans and family members who are not getting that expedited help like they should. They're not getting that help in clarity, where we understand more as a local state office based on our culture, how our people, our veterans and family members will more so be comfortable to come to our office to seek help and clarification of what's going on with their situation. So with that, on the 25th of April, the Veterans Affairs has changed the ruling that now encourages those veterans that were discharged other than honorable, in the military to come back and seek help because they were unjustly released from service without being provided help that they so much have deserved. So a case in point, the individual was in the service for so many years, done good. After 15, 20 years, the individual was discharged, bad conduct. Now, based on the criteria of the VA, that individual is not entitled to any type of compensation. Now they are reversing, and that's one part of the good thing that the VA is doing, that we're revisiting these veterans that were released from active duty, and we did not do any type of diagnostic or any type of help on their way out. And now they're out here in our community. So my philosophy, in which I shared with the Mayor's Council a couple of days ago, is please help me find your veterans that are out there, send them to my office, and let's get them taken care of, because I believe that they should be better role models than problem citizens. And I solely believe that. So with this bill, for the author and those that are here, I support this bill 100%. I ask you all to please consider the same, to approve it when that time comes, because definitely I look forward to creating it to make it better than what is language there. I'm sorry about that, Talo, but that's just me. Working together will make it better than what is language, so it'll be more effective. Sir.
Thank you, Director. And who's next? Joe or Nick? Mr. Muffin, Sergeant Major?
Thank you, Senator. Senator of the 3rd Sem Guam Legislature. I am also here in support of this Bill 268-37. And the reason why I say that is because we're overdue for this kind of bill. You heard the director what he said. It's time that we hire somebody as a liaison, to be part of the Veterans Office to handle all this situation that was mentioned on the bill itself, like the Manamku, the veterans that are kind of left behind and can't even make their appointment and so forth and so on. And I know that with this kind of bill, we will move forward and we will surely see a lot of changes once this bill is passed. And I'm sure that all our veterans that are here would also agree with me about, it's about time that we start moving on with our state office in Assen and with the director's assistant. This will be possible for all the veterans that are here and should not be any problem and should come down to the office, and we're there to help these veterans. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mick?
Thank you, Senator San Agustin. Thank you, the author of the bill, Senator Brown, to introducing Bill 268-37, and Senator Tello, Speaker, and the rest of the senators. Good afternoon. My name is Nick Francisco. I'm the commander for the Military Order of the Purple Heart, and I'm the president of the Vietnam Veteran of America. I am here to fully support this bill because I said that it's about time that we start giving attention to the veterans of Guam. We have about 24 to 26,000 veterans in Guam, and the veterans bring in over $40 to $50 billion a year. That is a lot of revenue coming from the veterans. And I think we're giving the veteran very little. Their budget is only little over $1 million. I think it's about time that Senator San Agustin, you have a bill, and Tello and Brown. But I say that veteran health care assistant here in the island been neglected for many, many years. I myself, in 2021, I almost died at Naval Hospital. I was going in and out to the ER. The doctor up there called my daughter to please, if you want to see your dad, I think it's time for you to come. My daughter came, my two daughters left everything and went straight to the airport and flew out here, and the first thing they did is to go up to Naval Hospital to see me and the doctor. My daughter was on the phone every day, weekend with Honolulu, trying to see how to get me out from here because I'm dying. I think that if it's not with the help of my daughter calling Honolulu every day, even Saturday, I don't know what will happen to me. I think I'll already be dead. With my daughter's assistant calling Honolulu, somehow the air ambulance came in from Alabama. And the ICU doctor, the nurse, and the pilot came up to Naval Hospital. She says, we're here looking for you to take you to Palo Alto Veteran Hospital in California. I already thought I'm going to die because they plugged my nose and I'm breathing on my mouth, dying. I say that there's a lot of things that the veterans here in our island are not being given. Up there in Naval Hospital, those people in the ER, I don't think anybody's checking on that. I remember hard to find that. My daughter been trying to find the social worker to see what kind of help I can get. Why does my daughter have to do this? Why? Because nobody there to follow up for me to get to California. So again, this bill appropriating $340,000 to create that liaison officer at the VA office, I think is a good start. It's a good start because at this time and age, there's a lot of disabled and elderly veterans. Majority of our Vietnam veterans already qualified on this disabled elderly veteran. And I know that the Office of the Veterans Affairs Office don't have the manpower to take care of our veterans' need. So I thank all of you senators here for putting attention for the veterans of Guam. You know, a lot of these veterans did their part. I myself, when I got drafted and they sent me to Vietnam, I don't say no, I don't say I'm not ready. I go. So I just hope that all of you, I know that this is an election year, but I don't want to sound that way. I think because of the year of the veteran, that all of these good things are happening. So again, I like to cut short because I can stay here and talk to you another half an hour, but I would like to give others a chance. But I thank the author of this bill, Tello and Senator Brown, and I ask all of you to please support this bill. I know that it's going to pass. Thank you very much. Jesus Masi.
Thank you, Nick. Ms. Cruz, Ginger? And then you'll be followed by...
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the chairman, Senator San Agustin, the author of the bill, Senator TAOTAO-TA and Senator Joanne Brown, and also Senator San Agustin for the bill that you put forward for the veterans, and to all of the senators here this afternoon. I'm Ginger Cruz. I am sitting here as a policy advocate this afternoon. I would like to thank Senator Taitigui for inviting me to provide testimony on Bill 268-37, and I would also like this to serve as my consolidated comments for Bill number 285-37. As a Guam policy advocate, somebody who has experienced firsthand in Iraq as a Defense Department civilian what war is like and seen the bravery of our military, a daughter, a wife, and a mother-in-law of war veterans, I commend you for the increased focus that this legislature has been giving to a group of men and women that sometimes feel forgotten. I know I echo many in our community when I say the sacrifices and challenges faced by our veterans who have risked their lives to protect our freedom deserve not only our deepest respect, but also our unwavering support as they navigate life beyond the battlefield. In considering Bills 285 and 268, which aim to expand financial support for the Guam Veterans Affairs Office, I see much needed infusions of resources to operations that are struggling to handle the workload within a limited budget and the staffing that they have been given. I commend Senator Taitigui and San Agustin for their efforts and give my support to both measures. I believe that in the short term, until appropriate federal resources can properly be harnessed to offset this expense, that this infusion is much needed. But that said, I also believe this is a good time to address the long-term needs of veterans on Guam. We cannot always be turning to Guam's tax resources to cover shortfalls that the federal government can cover. Our community must raise our sights to bigger and bolder solutions. Solutions that need to be crafted at the federal government level in Washington, D.C., and more aggressive action that can be taken by the leadership on Guam to engage the federal agencies. As I have studied the problems faced by Guam veterans, it becomes easily apparent that better coordination and vision developed in partnership with the Veterans Administration is needed to do several things. First, we need to aggressively pursue the establishment of an adjudication office for veterans here on Guam. There are offices in Honolulu, which are too far away, especially with the outrageous airfare, and there are offices in Manila, the only registered office of the VA not on American soil. The fact that Guam does not have an office should be a source of concern not only for our representative in DC, but also for this legislature. In a U.S. Congress that requires identification of offsets or a reduction where we want increased funding for Guam, We can reduce the funding for Hawaii by the proportion of funds allocated for Guam and freely associated states veterans, and use that money to establish a modest regional office in Guam that could serve as a hub for all of Micronesia. Secondly, Guam needs to seek an increase in the provision of medical and mental health support right here on Guam, leveraging amazing new advances in telemedicine and to supplement doctors, nurses, and technicians. And not only for Guam veterans, but also as a regional hub for the Marianas and Micronesia, who have approximately 1,600 veterans in need of support. One of them was a student of mine at UOG. And hearing about the problems that they face needing support here on Guam, trying to get to Hawaii, running afoul of all sorts of rules that just wear them out until they simply don't get the care they need. Pushing for a regional hub in Guam just makes sense. From a policy standpoint, establishing a proportionally sized veterans medical hospital capability on Guam will not only improve service and better meet the mission, it will also save on airfare, money that can be rolled in to support Guam's program. Most important, by pushing for more service to be made available on Guam, a veteran's family, who is their most valuable support network, will be able to be by their side. I have attended far too many funerals of veterans who have suffered from mental and physical ailments and who have passed before their time. We need to raise our voices now. I know a lot of you are probably shaking your head saying, we already tried that and we didn't get anywhere. To that, I say, the times today are radically different. The geopolitical center of American power in the Indo-Pacific has shifted from Hawaii to Guam. As a logistics hub, as operational centers from which America projects power across the Pacific, we have a window to make the case for unique considerations for the 170,000 Americans on Guam, an island with the highest concentration of veterans and the highest rate of military enlistment. While I understand that some of this needs to be done legislatively within Congress, there are also administrative actions that can be pursued by the VA. And so I put out a call to this legislature today. I have great faith that the united voice of Guam's local leaders can go a long way. I would respectfully ask the members of the 37th Guam legislature that while you are looking at appropriating local funds to solve a problem that can potentially benefit from federal resources, to also consider drafting a resolution that calls upon the Veterans Administration to reallocate resources to establish a small Veterans Education Office on Guam and expand healthcare support. Not adding funds, just moving them to where they make the most impact for the people they serve. I encourage you to collaborate with the Governor and the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs so that we're all singing off the same sheet of music. I also encourage you to establish a coordination mechanism that will bring the nonprofit veterans organizations into compliance, get them accredited, and onto a single table so that everyone who wants to help our veterans is working together and efficiently utilizing the scarce resources of government. As more funding is always needed, Guam needs to also pursue increased grant funding. If the VA can add Guam under its rural grant eligibility, there is federal money available for more vehicles and support along the lines of Senator Taitagui's bill. There are also other sources of nonprofit veterans groups that can be sought. Our veterans have faced unimaginable challenges and have made profound sacrifices in the name of our nation. They have traversed the most treacherous of terrains and stood steadfast in the face of adversity, demonstrating unparalleled courage in the defense of our cherished ideals. The least that we can do as policymakers and advocates is wade through the gauntlet of a tangled bureaucracy and demonstrate our unwavering commitment to those who have served us with honor and distinction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Ralph, you're next.
Okay. Buenos Senators. I think I should have gone first. Anyway, my name is Ralph Delay. I'm a retired Army veteran, and I'm here today to provide testimony in support of Bill 268. I'd like to thank Senator Taitagui and Senator Brown again for introducing this bill, which would create a medical liaison within the Veterans Administration. As you know, one of the most difficult challenges facing our veterans on island is the lack of benefits and medical assistance bestowed upon the most neglected of our brothers and sisters who have dedicated their lives in the service of our great nation and our island. The lack of medical facility dedicated to assist with the health care of our veterans has been at the forefront of the issues raised by our local veterans, a cry that has fallen on deaf ears with those in power. A liaison with whom a veteran can turn to for medical advice and one who can expedite the process of receiving the much-needed medical care will be the most welcome addition to the fight for equality within our veterans community. As you know, the majority of our veterans who are seeking health benefits and who are in need of dire compensation for injuries sustained during service are of the elderly generation, our uncles, our parents, our grandparents. This is the generation that really needs our help. I challenge you, senators, to take a trip down to the CBOC and sit with those veterans in the lobby. You want to find out what the heart of the problem is with the veterans? You'll find it there. That's the root of the problem. They do not have the technical savvy to navigate through the benefit process. Most are frustrated and don't apply and or give up due to all the red tape involved in submitting a claim. What these veterans really need is someone who can hold their hand and guide them through the process, someone who is knowledgeable and has the compassion and the patience to assist them in their time of need. I have a veteran friend. He's a Navy veteran of 6 years. He's an amputee. He has no kids, no children. His siblings are all in the United States. He relies on myself and another friend to take him to his appointments or to run errands for him, like get water. A simple thing like go get water. He can't do on his own. He has no transportation to take him to his scheduled appointments. If the VA can provide a dedicated transportation service that can take veterans to their appointments, like the mass transit but dedicated to the veterans, it will go a long way in providing a much-needed service for our veterans. Another issue, and I'm a part of this, is that our veterans have to deal with the process of how medication is acquired. In order for us to receive medication, it has to be requested from Hawaii, who then sends it through the mail to the post office. We have available pharmacies locally and on base. Why is it that we can't acquire our medication here? If a veteran needs psychiatric evaluation for PTSD or needs to join a support group for depression, suicide prevention, or anger management, it's done virtually. I'm part of that group. And I asked the host, why is it that we have to do this virtually when the COVID restrictions have been lifted? You know what the reply is? We don't have the facility to have a room for session. I don't know about you, but I have a difficulty expressing my emotions to a computer screen. I like to do it personally. So why is it that we can't do that? If they can give the veterans $100,000 for a convention, why can't they provide a facility for us to deal with our emotions? Thank you, Senators. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Chulai. We'll begin. I'd like to also recognize a colleague that have joined us, Senator Roy Kanata. We will proceed with the author of the bill. You'll close? Okay. How about Senator Brown? Would you like to ask any questions? No? Okay. Then we'll proceed with Speaker Chulai, if you have any questions for the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your testimony. It's excellent testimony. I just wanted to ask a couple things maybe, but Mr. San Agustin, Director, did you receive the money for the convention from the governor?
Yes, I did.
Was that $1 million?
No, it's 100,000.
100,000?
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking. All right. Okay, because I'm checking the budget too, and I think you're right, Mr. Francisco, that the budget proposal for FY25, the request that we received from the governor's office is exactly the same as this year, 1.2 million. And so that doesn't, to me, equate with the year of the veteran, right? Nothing is being elevated with the same exact budget
Maybe
request.
the answer for that, Speaker, is to make the Department of Veterans Affairs a department. So they don't have to be under the governor.
Well,
they can do their own budget.
I understand, but
The governor, right now, Cesar Agustin is under the mercy of the governor's office. And I think that's a step going to be to improve the Veterans Affairs Office, is to make it a department. And I hear that Lieutenant Governor said that they're going to slowly move out portion of public health in that old legislature that is already designated as Veteran Community Center, and this might be all the beginning. Long overdue, been neglected. They close their eyes on the veteran. They close their ears. They know that that office down there is a fourplex apartment since Gura's time, and that it's embarrassing to say that this is our Veterans Affairs Office. So I think Senator San Agustin, you're very close to the governor. I think that you can help us push that thing. Thank you.
I agree, and we've been trying to follow up with the building that public health is supposed to go back to in Manila, but that does not seem to be moving. It doesn't seem to have the support of the administration to move that, even the assessment of whether there was even fire damage after the fire inspectors or the insurance company said there was no damage. So for us, there's no reason why they can't work on it and move back in, and so you can have the building that they've promised you for years. But these are, I mean, I agree with you. Locally, we need to fix this, and instead of keep regurgitating it or going around in circles, promising, not fulfilling. But I also agree that this is the responsibility of the VA, like you said, Director. Absolutely, 100%. This is something, and I agree with you, Ginger, that the federal government should fund, should be doing more conveniently, not the way they are doing it, where we have to do prescriptions online, you have to go over there for certain services, or even farther, all of it. But in the interim, while we do advocate, it's frustrating to me, yeah, whether we are really, as I said last night, focused and advocating our top priorities together or not. However, I fully agree with this bill. I think this will address in the interim directly the gaps in the VA services, the gaps that they are not fulfilling for Guam, including transportation to medical services, including helping with these online systems, including what you're alluding to, Mr. Chalari, that when they're sitting up there at the CBOC, they're frustrated because of these systems and the way that the people of Guam are made to fit through their systems as opposed to more conveniently receive services that they've earned. The not being able to find social workers, I hear a lot of them. I mean, I've visited people in the hospital, and they want to talk to me because I'm a lawyer. They think I can help them get to their VA services in the States. The problem is, for me, it's like, yeah, the VA has its own system that you've got to work through, including social workers. And I don't know, yeah, maybe they're short-staffed as well here, right? So they can't address it as promptly as they should. But we've seen it, just like your case, Mr. Francisco, we've seen these patients in the hospital not being able to get even the attention, let alone the service that they need. So I want to thank my colleague, because the bill only asks for $340,000, and Mr. San Agustin, Director, do you think you'll be able to accomplish this with this amount?
Madam Speaker, based on the research that we did to try to see how much a vehicle will cost. It was around 120,000. And then we're looking at the 3 veteran service rep that we're anticipating to be the individuals that will be the liaison. That's where we went. I wanted it to be like 500,000, but you know, when you calculate it, you gotta come up with the true number based on what we see. Yes, and the vehicle was 120,000 that we came up with.
Sorry, Madam, also to incorporate one driver.
And the driver, yes.
Yeah, so it's not only the 3 liaison, but one driver as well, dedicated.
Yes, ma'am, and just to let you know, I mean, the salaries of these people that are gonna provide these services are really low. So I could tell you that we will go in requesting a higher salary, okay? And that will be on the next bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, so I'm hoping that with the consensus of all my colleagues, we can pass this bill, we can get these services provided immediately, that you'll be able to fill this position, get that car or whatever, automobile, however. But even, you know, all of those things take the cooperation of the administration. And this is the issue for me. It's like there's so many things they could have done in the interim to transfer money into the VA instead of out of the GOVA to just assign personnel, direct personnel. We've seen this like detailing of personnel all over the government if the need is there. So, but I support the bill, and I want to thank the authors for writing it pretty concisely, and I can see directly from the bill exactly what it's supposed to do, and you're saying that you can do this, so thank you. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Nick, for identifying me as Google hookup with the governor. But you know, you fail to recognize that Sergeant Major Joseph Muffins is the governor's liaison. So that's your connection, not me. Okay, so stop trying to use me, okay? It doesn't work that way. Moving along, let me see, Senator Blas, or no, Senator Duenas, do you have any questions? Sir.
Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the panel for, you know, a very rich and informative information. And Director, thank you for showing up to support this very important measure. I have to concur with a couple of things that were mentioned. Ms. Cruz, you know, really identified the fact that we should transfer this to a federal source at, you know, at some point. One of the things that I've learned throughout government is sometimes, and this is why I'm happy we're doing this, sometimes one of the biggest factors to getting federal support is showing local initiative as well. And so when you're willing to put up your resources and, you know, show them that you're willing to take care of your people, but it's really their responsibility. You know, it's one of the reasons why a lot of bills come forward to take mandated agencies. Also, once again, that's discussed in terms of filtering the nonprofits, getting them certified, and then also getting a cohesive effort going forward. This is the thing that the feds really recognize. When they see that your house is in order and that you're almost embarrassing them by doing something that they should be doing, you know, you really have a good chance at transferring that program over. And I agree, Mr. Francisco and members of the panel, this is long overdue. You're exactly right. Every time I talk to veterans, we talk about what's needed, and most of the time it fundamentally comes down to we need the help. You know, we served our country, we've got a lot of difficulties that we're dealing with on a daily basis. We need someone to help us navigate this government morass system. And so that's where I really believe that I think we've hit the right note here. Once again, Mr. Francisco, I want to, you know, recognize the fact that many veterans consistently remind me as well of the economic benefits of all our veterans and the resources and their benefits that they spend their money on Guam. Earlier, we heard a bill that talks about returning their resources. This is returning your resources. The tax benefit that the people of Guam have by all the money that you spend in our economy. And so I support the effort, and I support the efforts of the One Guam going forward as well, in terms of unifying our voice to raise this to a level. And the fact is, there's been a lot of, you know, and this is not competing between Hawaii and Guam, but let's just be honest with ourselves. They're a guerrilla, right? And so we need to start standing up and be that you know, be that tautomona too, you know what I mean, that stands up and says, look, you know, we're here, and we are a bigger part now, really, when you look regionally in terms of what Guam is being asked to do. So it's not difficult to envision the fact that we should be able to transfer this going forward. But, you know, I want to thank the gentleman here for vets helping vets, you know what I mean? I hear a lot of those stories too in terms of brothers and sisters taking each other to appointments and advocating for them. I wanted to take an opportunity to thank you for that as well. But it is the government's responsibility, and we heard you, as the director said, a short few weeks ago, we had a lot of you that were here to tell us this story as well. You know, they don't have enough resources to be able to advocate for us, help us. So help is on the way, but I look forward to the other bill as well. It looks like that will also backfill and shore up, you know, the additional resources you need, Director, to concentrate on all of your mandates, but then once again have the additional administrative resources to help our veterans. So I look forward to supporting this bill on the floor, and thank the authors for it, and I thank you for once again for the rich testimony on how we can take this, set the example, and move forward and get to Washington and knock on some doors. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Reyes. Senator Parkinson, do you have any questions for the panel or comments?
Just a few comments, Mr. Chair. I'd like to echo the sentiments of the retiring speaker. It has been a very rich and eye-opening dialogue. As a caretaker for many years of a 100% disabled veteran, I understand firsthand how complex and onerous that process could be for some of the veterans trying to avail of themselves of the benefits that they earned. And I echo the experiences of Mr. Ralph Terlahi on how for some veterans it can be a point of shaking their confidence, makes them give up on the system, on the help that should be there for them. I recognize that, you know, for my father, with somebody who was younger and able to avail himself of this technologies, he was very fortunate that I was able to give him that aid. But I recognize that not all veterans have that family support system. And because of that lack of support, many of them can fall through the cracks. So I greatly applaud this legislation, and I 100% support it. I also just wanted to give a shout out to my former instructor, Ralph Terlahi. This gentleman made a difference in the life of this young man when he taught me martial arts and how to defend themselves. And so thank you, sir, for making a difference in the community then, and also making a difference in the community now with your testimony. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Senator Blas, do you have any questions or comments for the panel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First off, I want to commend the authors of the bill, Senator Tyree and Senator Brown. They act, you know, this is a prime example of 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you sat here and they intently listened. And as a result of that, they came with a bill. Appreciate the panel for everything that you've provided. You know, Colonel, they know I know you as a colonel. Okay. Mrs. Agustin, Uncle Nick, Mr. Lai, thank you very much for your testimony. Ginger, thank you very much too for being here and bringing us from that perspective, and I totally agree. Well, Mr. Terlahi, I can totally relate to what you're saying. Because as we're sitting here, listening and having this, my wife is having to contend with her 83-year-old brother who is now trying to be released from the hospital, can't get out of bed because of injuries and because of medical conditions that were compounded after falling and breaking his shoulder or injuring his shoulder on Ash Wednesday, being sent to the Naval Hospital, recognizing he is a veteran. The shoulder was separated, broken in 3 places. They gave him oxycodone and told him to go home. So I can relate. I can relate to your frustrations. I can relate to the concern that you have with regard to the information not getting from point A to point B. I have to deal with it when I get home today. Just as many who have to do it on a day-to-day basis. I agree, Ginger, that, you know, first off, while the bill is necessary and it's noble, it's not really our responsibility. This is the neglect and this is the responsibility of the United States government, who has failed in its responsibility to the men and women who they called upon to serve. To the men and women who gave some, and in honor of those who gave all. And, you know, I sit here and I say frustration because, you know, we're talking about, and, you know, Mrs. San Agustin, see a little history. Do you know that the Office of Veterans Affairs actually started off as just the desk in community affairs of the governor's office? It was a desk. One person, one desk amongst the many. But because of the neglect from that time, the Department of Defense and the Veterans Administration, your government took it upon itself to try to help. And it's led us to today, where we're at and we're begging and we're pleading and we're trying to find ways to be able to provide help to you. You know, because I can see one of the things, one of the problems we're going to be able to have if we have the transport services. Saying, yeah, we're going to get the car, but now we're going to need the permission to get the car so the car can get on the base and get the authorization for the driver to drive the person to the facility, and to make sure that the individual who's being driven to that facility had the proper notification that he's waiting for from Hawaii to be seen by a physician or by a medical specialist. This is things that you shouldn't have to go through. With regard to support, again, it's not a matter of the money, it's a matter of the principle. You know, it pains me when I know almost all of you, most of my political career. And I can say that in almost every conversation we have, it's the same. And I agree. It's got to get better. So I support this legislation. I support the legislation after that as well. But I think more so than that is the call for us to be able now to say, look, Department of Veterans Administration, Department of Defense, United States government, enough's enough. What more sacrifices do our veterans need to make? What more sacrifices do their families have to endure for you to be able to live up to what you had promised and what they deserve? Unfortunately, it's not the last time we're going to meet in something like this. But hopefully, things will get better. We always have to have that optimism. And I thank all of you for continuing, despite the frustration I know that you have. Uncle Nick, last night you yelled at me. Okay? For good reason. But you didn't realize you yelled at me, but I deserved it. I deserved it as a representative for you, and I deserved it because I know the frustration. I sensed it. I sensed it last night too. Mr. Talahi, I sense your frustration. I know your frustration. My wife's calling because she needs help with him now, right now. Okay? So thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Senator Tadegui, Senator Brown, thank you very much for introducing the legislation.
All right, thank you, Senator Blas. Senator Barnett, do you have any comments, questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to first thank all the veterans for their service and their sacrifice to the people of Guam and our nation, and also for the great testimony. Yeah, my father is a veteran and my grandfather as well. He fought in World War II as part of the Guam Combat Patrol, which has also been called the Insular Guard at sometimes. And so my grandfather is also a warden. He drove for Governor Guerrero. He was a Guam Police Department officer. And when he reached his 60s, he started to experience, like many of us do, medical ailments. And at the time, there was a movement between the local government and the federal government to designate individuals who served in the Guam Combat Patrol, the Insular Guard, to make them Marines so that they could avail of benefits, medical benefits from the federal government. And unfortunately, that process took too long. And so by the time my grandfather was able to go to Naval Hospital as a veteran who was recognized by the federal government, it was too late. And he was already very, very sick. And he died shortly after that recognition came. And Mr. Francisco is right. At no point did my grandfather tell anybody that, hold on, I got to do this paperwork before I go and defend my island, before I go into the jungle and hunt down the Japanese. He did it without hesitation because it had to be done. And so I fully understand the frustration that we have with the federal government. That's very commonplace in many of the issues that we face in an island. And I feel like we have a responsibility as leaders, not just here in the legislature, but also at the front office to leverage this labeling of our island as the tip of the spear, and to encourage, entice, and implore the federal government to welcome us truly into the American family and to truly give our benefits and the services to the veterans who deserve them. So that is frustrating on the federal government's part, but when our local government fails as well, I think the expectation amongst our people is that, Uncle Sam can treat us like that, but Lana, let's not treat each other like that. And so it is frustrating when we hear these pronouncements about, oh, BIBA, Year of the Veteran, but then we turn in the same old budget that does nothing to improve services to the veterans. So that's very frustrating for me, because I've heard these frustrations in previous administrations, but we're halfway through the second term of this one, and we're still talking about the same shortcomings. We're still talking about the same failures of delivering services to our veterans, whether it's on the CBOC side, on the federal side, or whether it's on the local side. We just got through a bunch of hearings dealing with the many issues at the Veterans Cemetery. I know disabled veterans, like the amputee that you mentioned, cannot even access the second floor of our local Veterans Affairs office. And so, yeah, it's very frustrating, and I feel you're frustrating. I feel it. I know why you're yelling at elected leaders, because, we deserve it. And so there's a lot of talk out there about making the legislature part-time, but I mean, I don't know how we're going to address these very full-time problems and issues with the veterans, and we see it just across our government. We cannot address full-time problems on a part-time status. So thank you again for your service. Fully support this measure. You're right, it's something that should have been in place a long time ago, and I commend Senator Tello and Senator Joanne, and they also just committed that I can become a co-sponsor as well, since I asked. Thank you very much. But co-sponsor or not, fully support this measure, and really just would like to see this year and every year after this year truly be the year of our veterans, because this frustration and this neglect that you feel didn't just start happening this year, but if we all work together, hopefully we can see it end moving forward. So again, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Kanata, do you have any comments or questions for the panel?
No questions. Just wanted to thank you guys, you most especially and your families for your services. I know a lot of you have generations of service. Our island has generations of service, and we will continue to have generations of service in the military. But that's pretty much it, Mr. Chair. That's all. I just wanted to thank you guys for your service and your families for all the sacrifices you guys continue to, as you guys continue to pave the road for freedom so that we can live our lives happily. Certainly, we need to make sure that we can do better for a lot of you, and you have my commitment and support on this legislation. And we'll work with whoever goes to DC, and we'll work with the front office to ensure that better services are provided to you, gentlemen and women. Thank you guys again for your service.
Thank you, Senator Kanata. Before I ask Senator Tydegui to give her closing, I'd like to just comment. Number one, I'm happy that we had the oversight hearing on the Veterans Affairs because these were all brought up. This bill and the bill that's next. That was revealed. And also on this bill and the next bill, I'm going to make sure that the bill also identifies or states that, number one, the funds cannot be transferred out by the governor. Number two, it'll be used until exhausted. And then what we're going to do is as we're taking a look at your current budget, Director, we're going to try to work it to see that we make sure that it stays there so that when it does get exhausted, there's funds to keep it going for next year. Okay, so your 1.2 is good for what it was written on, but we'll deal with that on making it more than that. Because I know my vice chair is going to be promoting that because of my bill that's coming up after this one. But I want to get the author to give her comments because she has to run. She's got to go somewhere. Senator Tydegui.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I do. I have to go. In fact, I had to delay a flight just so that I could be here today and leave later on in the evening instead of the afternoon. It was important to me because you're important. You're very, very important. I mean, as soon as that public hearing happened, the oversight happened, and listening to the concerns, as well as hearing from other veterans about the issues on medical. I should know I have had a major medical issue that I've had myself and know how difficult it is, especially when you're alone and you have no one there to help you. It really, it touches me. And then veterans, I don't care if it's a year of the veterans, they should never be forgotten, like Senator Barnett said. And by the way, Senator Barnett, of course, you'll be the next co-sponsor on this legislation coming out. In fact, all the senators that are sitting here today that took the time out to hear you, who you are, I'll put them on as co-sponsors. But I just want the cameras to focus in on those that are here. If you can just, yes. If you can, yes, those who are here, I want to thank you, all of you who are sitting back there, to be here to testify. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. And as I said, in my testimony, it was about now. And that's probably why Senator Brown and I, we didn't want to waste time. You know, we could have reached out to other senators right away to be co-sponsors, but we wanted to get this out now. People are hurting now. We can't wait any longer. And like you said, it's long overdue on this. Ginger, thank you so much for your testimony. I'm pretty sure a lot of us are going to keep the copy of your testimony because there's a resolution in there that you mentioned that we should be putting together. So I'm going to work with my colleagues on creating that resolution. It makes sense. So we'll put that together. Mr. Mopnes, of course, it's always a pleasure. Director San Agustin, this money is going to come to you. The bill says shall create a liaison, a medical liaison within the Veterans Office, shall. So nobody can stop you from doing that. You've got to do it, okay? Because I will be hounding and knocking on your door until that is up and running. You know, if there's not enough room where you're at right now and you can only bring in 1 or 2 people, that's fine. But it needs to be done now. Hopefully we can get this on the session agenda, at least get you started. And you know, it's not just the disabled or the Manamco coming in that needs help too. I hope you don't turn away any veteran that needs to come in there for assistance, you know, with their medical needs and transportation. Mr. Francisco, you're my favorite. Ever since, You've known me since I was a little girl, and I appreciate all that you do for our veterans and the recruitment that you're doing with the next generation of veterans that are there. Like Mr. Talaya, I already know you're giving him your number because Nick is going to be calling you, and all those other veterans that are out there that are not getting involved, please get involved with your veterans. Because one of the programs too is Veterans Helping Veterans is a great program. A very good program, and I hope to see it through. Mr. Terlahi, you were probably the inspiration for this legislation for me. You're the one that told me about the issues that you were having on the medical side, and it was your conversation that pushed me toward this. So I greatly appreciate it. Mr. Bill Cunliffe was not able to make it today. However, he asked me to make mention of his testimony. And this is from Bill Cunliffe. He says, I'm in full support of Senator Tyree and Brown's proposal to increase the resources for the Guam Veterans Office. Doing so will definitely enhance GVAO capabilities to better serve our veterans and their families, thus improving their quality and life. As mentioned, I have to, Speaker, please.
Bill Cundiff, right?
Bill
Not
Cundiff.
Cundiff, the chairperson of the Veterans Commission.
Cundiff, yeah, Cundiff, sorry. Yeah, that is I have retainers on, it's hard for me. But that being said, I'm gonna have again, thank you for being here. Resolution, it will be created, co-sponsors, we're gonna get that all through. My office is always open for anyone who has any questions or suggestions to move forward to get this office up and running as soon as possible. So that being said, I'd like Senator Brown to say a few words too on the closing as well if she'd like to. But thank you again, everyone. Thank you so much. And by the way, the next bill that's coming up, even though I have to run to catch a flight, I'm in full support of it. Senator Joseph Augustin's bill 285. This is also going to help. And Director, if you do need to increase the salary to bring people in, because one of the hardest things that we're having now on Guam is finding people to work. I mean, we see restaurants that are closing earlier than usual because they don't have enough staff. So if we need to increase it, I hope that when both bills pass, it'll allow some of that funding to take care of a liaison officer if they need additional funding. So I'm hoping, but I do support his measure as well. Thank you. Senator Brown?
I don't have much to add. I think pretty much all has been said with regards to this legislation, but thank you. Thank you for continuing to do all that you do, because it takes time and it's challenging, but we just wanted to let you know your voices are heard, and we appreciate all that you still continue to do for our community. So thank you for coming down and taking the time today to provide testimony on this bill and for your continued support. We most appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Tyree and Senator Brown. I want to thank everyone for attending this hearing and providing feedback and suggestions. Bill 268 as 37, COR public hearing is now adjourned. The time is now 3:57. And with that, Jesus Masi. Now we will proceed to Bill 285. I think everybody's pretty much the same folks that are going to be here, except for Mr. Talai. I beg what? He just stepped out, John. Be nice, John. Okay, now we'll now proceed to Bill 285. And I remind everybody, there's only 3 individuals that signed up to testify, and that's Joe Movness, Ginger Cruz, and Nick Francisco. I think, Ms. Cruz, Ginger, I think your testimony, you don't need to read it again if you don't want. That's okay. I'll just incorporate it on this bill, okay? We got it. So it'll just be Joe Movness, Joe Augustin, the director, and Nick Francisco. And with that, Zan, we're starting the next bill. Thank you, Zan. Goodbye, Ninja. Okay. Okay, with that, I'm going to introduce my bill that I introduced, okay? Bill 285-37 LS was introduced by myself, Senator Joe Augustine, co-sponsored by Vice Speaker Tina Munoz Barnes, Senator Dwayne Nicholas, Senator Roy Canate, aimed at improving services for veterans through the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. This bill is simple. Help Guam Office of Veterans Affairs so they can help our veterans. This bill will appropriate $1 million from fiscal year 2024 general fund to that office for the purpose of funding 6 veteran service representatives, or VSOs, and 6 cemetery workers. We know that Guam is very patriotic, having one of the highest per capita in service members. Even after service or retirement, attaining service can be an issue. Currently, when a veteran wants to go to the Office of Veterans to follow up on his or her claim as a registered veteran, there are only 4 VSRs or VSOs available to help them. And I know your folks, directors and Augustines, are overworked. As a retired veteran, we all know the vital role the Veterans Office plays in supporting our veterans and their families with various needs. With additional personnel, we will be able to expand outreach and registration efforts to inform veterans of the various services they may be qualified for in retirement or after service. Additionally, the Veterans Office has only 5 limited appointed personnel cemetery workers. This bill will give you 6 permanent cemetery workers. You don't have to deal with limited term anymore. And they will be able to, the continuity of care for the cemetery, the chapel, grounds, and burials. We want to appropriate additional funding to COVID to allow them to hire needed staff for consistent and adequate service, to maintain and provide the honor and respect our late service members and their families deserve. I'd like to thank my co-sponsors, and I'm very confident this bill will pass. And it will also add the funding cannot be transferred by the governor, and it will be used until exhausted. Okay? So understand that. Now, Director, when it was mentioned earlier, and we spoke before, if there's an issue on the salaries of your employees, I leave that to you. $1 million is more than enough to hire those 12 individuals. You adjust the salary as needed and move on, and take care of also the health part, the medical side, because that'll basically be 2 bills, come up to about $1.3 million. Okay? And with that, I'd ask you to go ahead and give your testimony, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Joe San Agustin, Honorable Speaker Teresa Lahi, Senator Chris Barnett, Senator Chris Duenas, and Senator Frank Blas. Senator Frank, I just want to thank you for your comments on your experience and your hardship that you're going through with your family, because that really means a lot to me. I'm here, I am the director of the Guam Veterans Affairs Office, and I'm here to testify in support of this bill, Bill 285-37, an act to provide $1 million to the Guam Veterans Affairs Office to be able to hire 6 more veteran service representatives and 6 more Guam veteran cemetery workers on a permanent status. With that said, with this increase of employees, we can more efficiently provide better service to our veterans and their family that has been waiting for a long time for services. As I alluded earlier, the VA had a change of rule that's effective 25th April. What's important to understand is that I am expecting many of those individuals that are now being made aware that they are more likely entitled to benefits and medical services, that they'll start coming forward so that we could provide services to them. And what I do not want to see happen is having 100 people per day show up at my doorstep with only 4 veteran service rep to assist. That's kind of an inflated number, but again, you know, when they come to show up seeking for help, the worst thing that I do not want to see happen is come back next week because we're full, okay? So this bill and this initiative, Mr. Chair and everyone here today in support of this, thank you, because definitely we could use it. I will tell you that I will not be able to hire all 6 service reps at once. The cemetery workers, I'll probably be able to because there's enough space to house them down at the cemetery. In the meantime, I will continue to work with the administration to help us find a larger place so that we're able to house all 10 service reps, to include the liaison team that we are going to put together. So you'll be in a face-to-face, per se, but I thank you for the language where it's going to be utilized until it's exhausted. But I could tell you that me being a very responsible person, that I will utilize it to the definition of the law and expedite that if I'm able to bring on board those service representatives to start providing service based on the space that we have available, then I will do so. I will also discuss with the team. If we do bring them in with the limited space, we probably could go ahead and start using them as outreaches. So we could probably assign them to different mayors' offices to provide that service on a rotational basis. We'll look at that. So those are some of the ideas that we could possibly look at to effectively utilize these individuals, okay? And of course, you know, we got 19 villages, right? I mean, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to be stationed at the area where they're from, and they'll be able to do a better work there because they know who their veterans are, and they'll know that community a lot more. Whatever language you're going to language it, and I will follow likewise. I will execute it likewise. But I would also want to share with you all that I want to make sure that I am very responsible to make sure that I use the funding, because I understand it belongs to the people, okay? And I'm happy. I don't know if y'all knew me years ago, you know, back in 2011, I sat up here for a, for some hearing, and, you know, I was kind of very aggressive, somewhat nervous. Now I'm comfortable, because you know, I'm surrounded by good people. I'm surrounded by our veterans that I have a good meaning as to why I exist, why we do what we do. And I want you all to be behind me. Let's work together and do the right thing for our veterans and their family, and not just that, the people of Guam, because I'm a firm believer that every family, there's a veterans that exist. And that's why I always mention that let's not forget the family, because the family are going through the burden of the veteran that's not being provided that service. And I want to see a veteran who's a role model to their family and not a problem to their family. And so by doing this, I think we're creating them to be better role model within their family, better productive citizens to our community, and therefore, in turn, it becomes a better one Guam. So with that said, I thank you very much for this bill, and I hope that you all support it when it comes up for a vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Snugson. I think it'll pass. Nick, do you have anything you want to testify on in support?
I'd just like to share that this 6 service officer is really, really needed. I hear veterans that they have to wait for appointment. I hear that they're backlogged up to June. They cannot take any more appointment until sometimes in June. But like I said, I deal with the two veteran organizations, but the one that I received the most is from the Vietnam Veteran of America, that, and some of the other veterans that are just getting out from the Guard, that it takes long to see a service officer to start their claim. And this is very thankful for you, Senator, for appropriating this money to hire 6 service officer and 6 cemetery worker. So I don't want to plug. I think everybody already said enough. And I thank you, and I thank Speaker and Senator Burnett and Senator Dreines and Senator Blas and the other senators, because I know that this bill is going to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Muffin, Sergeant Major.
Thank you. Senator San Agustin, Senator Burnett, Speaker Talai, Senator Blas, and Senator Dueñas. I am here also to support this bill 285-37, and let me just say why I am here to support this bill, especially when you're giving go over the $1 million. First of all, since I was TDY down to the Veteran Cemetery and also at the ASEN office, you know, those cemetery workers, they're really working way beyond their scope. And I feel sorry for them because sometimes they have to come in on a weekend. And you know, I don't know, maybe, like you said, this is the year of the veterans, but we see a lot of veterans dying. And sometimes we have 2 barrels a day, and that's hard for these guys. And now with the additional support and hiring people that will help the veteran cemetery workers, this will really a great help for these people that are working, because when they are not burying anybody, they will have to, you know, trim the grass, all that stuff, you know, and it's a lot of work for these guys. And I feel sorry for them when I see them on the hot sun, you know, I sometimes provide water for these guys because they're non-stop. When they start working, they will not take a break. And the only time they will break is when it's lunchtime and all that, maybe 30 minutes, and then out they go again. So I feel sorry for that. As for the ASEN office, it's really a bad location. Let's put it that way. And it's a 2-story building. And what it is that, like what Nick said, the 4 VSO or VSR down there in ASEN is overwhelmed. And to have veterans wait for up to June to be entertained is kind of odd, you know. The other thing also is that, you know, these guys, they go by appointment, and not only that, but sometimes they have to answer the phone, entertain people on the phone, or go into their WhatsApp and entertain people there. That's why they have to go on appointment on a daily basis. They only can entertain 2 because they have to answer the phone, and they have to answer all these other incoming mail that the veterans are required. So with this additional 6, that will really put up a great help and more to be entertained when they come in to file for their claim or whatever they have. So with that, I hope that all of you senators will, you know, approve and pass this bill of additional funding for the Veterans Office in ASEN. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Muffin. Sergeant Major. Madam Speaker, do you have any comments or questions for the panel?
Sure. Sizos Masi. Mr. Chair, Sizos Masi, for your testimony today, and for all of you who are here in support of this testimony and from the sign-up sheet in support of the bill. Sizos Masi. It means a lot that you're here today. Particularly because this is an appropriation bill and we're weighing money, and as you heard earlier, we receive a list from BBMR, the Bureau of Budget and Management Research at the Governor's Office, that tells us that although there was 21 million in excess at the end of March, there was a bill passed that gives 15 million of that to the Department of Corrections. That bill is on the governor's desk. It's due and on the 10th. We'll know whether she signs it or vetoes it. But if she signs it, there's only 6 million left. So we're now vying among all these other bills for that 6 million, right? And so this bill would be 1 million. The other bills, I just want you to know, so I'm going to read them off. There's a Bill 221. This is to put $350,000 to to repurpose that Manila Public Health Facility for GCC instead of public health. There's a Bill 225. That was my bill I introduced a while ago, $5 million for nurse pay. But I've worked this out with the Department of Administration, who was supposed to help GMH with their finances, and they've said that the $20 million that we gave GMH before was enough to take care of this $5 million for the nurses' pay. Of course, there are now other concerns at GMH, but that's the bill, and that was since January, I believe, if not earlier. I also introduced a bill for $1.5 million for the NAFTAN Mañanata. That's the shrine where we're supposed to be building up at Ipao Point to put all the burials that have been unearthed for decades into one place. That was 1.5. That was based on an estimate I received from those who were working on it at the time. That bill has been introduced since January. There's been no public hearing on it. Then there was the DOC bill for the $15 million. As I told you, that one was passed in the last session up at the governor's office. The Bill 251 is, this is an $11 million bill to create a GPD task force. There is Bill 264, which is another bill, $5 million to fund the NAFTAN Memorial, but the estimates I had received seem to be sufficient, but this bill is another one for $5 million. There's a Bill 268, 300, that's the one we just heard, Senator Taitaqui's bill for the veterans' healthcare transport and liaison, $340,000. Bill 277, the $15 million energy credit, which you heard us here have a hearing on this today. Bill 280, $400,000 for a primary election. I'm hoping that might not be necessary anymore, that we can cut that based on what, I don't know, we'll see. But no hearing on that yet. Bill 285, this is the bill we're hearing, $1 million. So for me, out of these lists, I support the $1 million in this bill going for this purpose. So I'm hoping that nothing else is going to get in the way of that. And even if the governor signed Bill 234 for DOC, or she put the DOC, the money, the $15 million instead to the power credits, there will still have the $6 million left, and the $1 million can be used for this bill, and the $340,000. So I'm saying there is a way, but I'm saying there are other, competing measures is, I guess, what I'm going to call them. There's also a $969,000, almost $1 million bill to fund WICHI, which is a Western Regional Scholarship Program. Anyways, I just wanted to make sure you're aware of those, because that's what we're seeing and that's what we're looking at. And those are the facts. But as for the bill, I very much support the bill, and I support your being very vocal about the needs for veteran service officers. These are people who are going to take care of the claims, and that's, I think, the #1 priority of your office, aside from the cemetery, are these. And so I like the bill because it puts it to the two things that really we need to take care of the claims if they are going to get what they have earned, right? And we need to, of course, take care of the cemetery, and that's, again, similar to the previous bill, because it's not being taken care of by anyone else, right? Federal government, no one. So it's on us, and we want to do better. So I guess I have a couple questions for you, Mr. San Agustin. One is, that you announced recently that 8.2 million grant that we talked about maybe a couple years ago is back in business, back on the table, and that it might actually be 13 million, and that's for the cemetery. Was that intended to cover personnel?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Madam Speaker, no, it wasn't. And let's, let me do this. The federal government is trying to do everything that they could. My last conference in Kentucky, I did ask them whether they could provide us funding so I could recruit for cemetery workers. And so their answer was they're not able to support that. Basically, the funding that is being provided to us is solely for the expansion of the cemetery. And so, yes, I did say 8.5 to 13 million. That is an amount going forward based on the discussion that we had with regards to the capacity of the expansion, if that makes sense.
All right, yes, makes a lot of sense, and thank you for your work on that. And we're looking forward to that in October, right? Or at least the award in October?
Yes, at the earliest be October. Keep in mind that there's 4 other states that are being
competing?
Well, they're as far as priority 1. So there's a priority 1, high priority 1, no, second place, third place. So there's 4 of us that I understand that are going to be prioritized as 1.
All right.
But there's movement.
Okay, and at the last hearing, there was an oversight hearing by the Veterans Oversight Chair of the legislature and Senator Barnes, who's been appointed by our congressman to a Veterans Advisory Council for what do they call it, offshore or something? For outlying, U.S. outlying areas and freely associated states. But yeah, those are also co-sponsors of the bill, Senator, but I wanted to point out, your co-sponsors aren't here, but we are, just for your consideration. That's just a joke. I totally respect them. I want to know, when we talked about this at the last hearing, the vet service representatives, remember there was a grant, we talked about that grant to train people in our community to do that. There was a grant specifically for that. We used it, but we didn't complete it all the way. And right after we left the hearing that day, I got a communication from the Lieutenant Governor's office, the state clearinghouse, that explained what happened. And pretty much it was, they just didn't complete the process. So they need to, I guess there's an in-service training part that they need to complete and other things. So that would have given us 10 additional, which we do not have certified right now or working in your office either. We were not able to give them any positions. And so some of them I know are doing volunteer work to help, but these, if you hire these in your office, veteran service representatives, they will go through the training and be certified and accredited?
That is correct.
All right, is this similar to that, I think last night we met maybe
That's
3
correct.
or 4 in your office that were doing, and then there's one person from the VFW. What's the difference?
HMI. You're talking VFW, Mr. Alan Turner?
Yeah, the one that they said had a different type of accreditation.
Yeah, so they basically have the same type of accreditation, except Mr. Alan Turner works for a nonprofit organization. And he also goes off island. He also has clients in Japan and the Philippines. In comparison to ours, our clients are the ones here locally on island.
All right.
So that's the difference between what he does and what our service reps does.
So we hire these people, they're going to be certified to the extent that the 4 people in your office currently are.
That's correct, to
All right,
provide local help.
And yeah, so I very much support this, especially because we've heard that they are booked. That's based on your current people, your current services that are required, not even counting the expected increase in people that you might see because of the change in the VA policy, right?
That's correct.
So very much in need, very much urgently needed. Again, you talked about space limitations that might hold us back. I'll tell you, between the chairman and I, we've seen over the years so many appropriations that we try to put to agencies, they're not able to use it. And at the end of the year, it's so disappointing because they're not able to use it. And they tell us things like, you know, we just couldn't get the hiring done. The DOA hiring process is too long. I don't want to see that happen here. It's very important that you try to get this done. This is going to, it looks like it will be a continuing need for that additional money. So every other year, you're going to have to come in and say you still need this much more money, which is $1 million more than the current request from the governor.
That's correct.
And the space limitations, I just don't think those are acceptable. I'm thanking you for finding other ways and looking for other ways. And yeah, I think that Hessler Building is critical to this. Do you support that, the use of the Hessler Building for the veterans?
Yeah, I think I've toured that place twice, and it's feasible. There's plenty of space to be able to have different reps in there, to include the nonprofit organization and different activities that could be happening in there. But keep in mind that once public health is out of there, we do have to do renovations. We do need to build rooms that are soundproof so that when our service reps are talking to the clients, that the information is kept within that room. It doesn't flow outside. HIPAA.
All right.
But yes, I support it.
Do you know how long it's been since that promise was made that that building would be for the veterans?
I just came in June of last year, so nine months from me.
Maybe Mr. Francisco, you know. I think it was made directly to you.
Over 2 years since Tima Pun was there.
I'm sorry. Turn if you could.
I said, when they promised the veteran and the governor, this came up from the governor's mouth that the old legislature could be turned over for Veteran Community Center. And this since Tim Agustin, when he was the director. So over 2 years already we've been waiting. That's why I reminded the Lieutenant Governor again that he said that there's a date that's established that is starting May 31st. They have to start, portion of that have to start moving out. But I'm kind of surprised that I hear you said that the old public health in Manila is going to be given to the DCC.
There's a bill to do that.
Why the DCC? Give it back to the public health and go back.
My bill is supposed to mandate that. It's already public health building. It's a matter of they can move in anytime. However, they are, like, I guess, being told not to. And although their nurses very much want them to go back there and open up the clinic, according to the hearing that we had, is their administration of public health that doesn't want to do that right now. And when we check DPW, we check them almost every couple of weeks. We check what is the status. They keep saying they can't move, and no one can move in until they do an assessment. And their assessment is, they've been working on it for a long time now, over a year.
I heard the Director of Public
They don't
Works
even
said
have a
that
contract.
they never condemned that building.
Nick, let's end with public health. We're here for the veterans, and if we don't focus on veterans, we're not getting anywhere.
We are.
So
We're
let's just focus
focusing on
that.
veterans, and it's relevant because if they can't get these VSRs because they don't have space, and they don't have space because they can't get the Hessler building, it's absolutely relevant, unless we're going to give them another space. And I'm willing for you to use some of our space here for the interim if that's necessary. However, there's one more concern, and that was there's a lot of concern about if this money goes to veterans, you know, and while you're, you know, doing whatever it takes to be able to use this money, will it be transferred out, right? And so the chair assured you that he's going to put language in. But I still feel that's a very valid transfer. We have to keep our eyes on it. I've learned as a senator over these years that you can't just put an appropriation. You've got to watch it. You've got to see whether they use it. You've got to see who else is taking it, because despite language that says no other person can use this or it can't be transferred, we've seen transfers out of child support, the CLTC infrastructure, water, DOE, E911. We've seen all those. So, of course, it's very much a concern. But I'm hoping that it's the year of the veteran, and we will not see that this year or ever again. And I think we've even seen transfers out of the Veterans Office in the past. So I just want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for this bill, and thank you very much for your support.
You know, Madam Speaker and Senators, I hear your concern. I think I work very well with the administration. I will continue to work with the administration in all matters that has been brought up. I think we will prevail. It's just a matter of communications and working together, and me staying on top of the hiring or the recruitment process so that that funding doesn't stay there for 2 years. That's when it's flagged, when a director doesn't utilize it for its purpose and just sits there, then it's looked at. Well, if they haven't used it for a year or two, they probably don't need it. But in saying that, that's where I commit that I will utilize it for its main purpose and expedite the process as much as I could. Thank you very much.
Masi, Director.
Thank you. Senator Duenas.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chairman, and once again, Director San Agustin and Joe and as well as Nick, thank you once again for being here. You know, once again, I'm going to go back to a few weeks ago. You came and you said, yes, you're telling me what the problems are, but what I need help. So help is on the way. So Master Guns, as I affectionately call you, help is on the way. And I too support this bill. And I think the chairman might close by saying, even if the governor does sign the $15 million that's been appropriated for DOC, they're not going to be able to go to procurement on their facility within this fiscal year, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure that will carry over into the next fiscal year, where we will be doing a reset to include more than likely this $1 million in your budget, Master Guns, going forward. I want to tell you a little bit of a story, and maybe some of you here sitting in this hall will know this. This hall is named after Speaker Mpinku. And many of you might remember when Speaker Mpinku was Speaker, he actually had a veterans office within his office. And they were all volunteers. They were not paid individuals. They were doing the job of processing paperwork. In fact, one of the gentlemen there, I won't name him because I didn't get permission, was actually processing paperwork for those who are known in the military as being unknown because of the missions that they carry out. And sometimes they got lost in terms of their benefits and what they could receive. And so the reason why I tell you that story, Master Guns, is not only is it appropriate at some point to move back there in honor, because that's where his office was at the time we weren't in this current building, when he was providing that very vital service. And like I said, that was veterans helping veterans, because those were all volunteers. None of them got paid. I think we paid them in donuts and coffee, and that was it. So that's very appropriate. And I say that also, sir, because, you know, let's not let the space limitation at Veterans Affairs Office to be an impediment. Let's satellite those employees if we have to. And like you mentioned, you know that there's adequate space there already. Let's get it underway and make sure. In this day of technology, where individuals can coordinate through WhatsApp, through computers, through everything else with the home office. Some people even got used to working at home after this COVID restrictions and everything else, and they do probably more productive work at their house than they did in the office. So let's not let that be an excuse and an impediment. The money's going to be there, sir, and I think once that appropriation reaches your, the authority reaches your account, you know, I look forward to you too working well, but pushing the administration to get this thing moving forward, because, you know, your voices have been heard, and now the money's there. So let's get it done and move it forward. And you know, I'm sure, once again, as was mentioned earlier, even if it was our offices, you know, we'll do it to make sure that you have the personnel there, ready to go, hired and processing. And so I don't think the 15 million or others are impediments, because this should be the priority. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I just thank you for allowing me to share a few comments, and once again honor one of my favorite speakers in history, Speaker Mpinku. Sidus Masi.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. Senator Blas, do you have any comments or questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank to the panel. Thank you again, once again, for being here, and for the members of the audience, veterans. Thank you again also for being here and for your service. Mr. San Agustin, and I appreciate that this bill provides funding for two sets of employees. One is your VSOs, and the other one's your funeral, the cemetery workers. And I appreciate, and I recognize it's easier to be able, and it would probably be quicker for you to get the cemetery employees. And the VSOs, while they have to be trained up, and I'm sure you've got something out, it's a matter of space. But just for point of clarity, okay, what is the responsibility of the VSO? What will that worker, that individual, what will they be able to do?
So the question is, what is the responsibility of the Veteran Service Representative?
Right.
So the job of the Veteran Service Representative is to help the veterans or their family member in all the administrative paperwork, in the gathering of all the administrative paperwork, evidence of their disability, evidence of their medical status while they were in the service, to put the paperwork together, review it with the veteran or the family member, and then submit that to the federal government for review for compensations or benefits entitled to that veteran or the family member.
Okay. Provided that the veteran has all the paperwork necessary.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And works with the VSO. How long will that process, that VSO, that the veteran expect to be with that VSO to put that paperwork together?
Yeah, so normally it takes at least 2 hours.
2 hours?
At least 2 hours, yes.
Okay. Now, you said that now the VSO will then take that paperwork and help assist the veteran. Is it the VSO or is it the veteran that submits it to the to the Veterans Administration?
So when the individual comes in to our office, we are now their
advocate and
their advocate. Okay. That's right. They sign a paper allowing us to assist them with their paperwork.
Okay.
So we're the one that actually takes it up to TZN, turn it in, and TZN then sends it off to wherever it's got to go for review, approval, or whatnot.
Okay, and so what is the average time that you can say that an individual, a veteran, he spent 2 hours with the VSO, probably another hour to take it up to TZN. Yeah. What's the time frame now for this approval or this disapproval process?
Yeah, so the average is around 6-7 weeks.
6-7 weeks?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
And I want that to be made very clear because, you know, sometimes your office gets blamed for that process, and that's unfair. Okay? I just wanted to make sure that when we're talking about the VSO, we're talking about an individual that will assist the veteran in being able to package that, all the paperwork, package the document, get all those things that are necessary. And that allows, and then it's turned over to an entity someplace no less than 3,800 miles away.
That's correct.
Okay? And a different time zone, different day. Okay? God help us if we have to bother them if we send it, you know, on a Monday because they're still asleep on Sunday over there. Okay? And then it probably goes into a pile of other applications from veterans who happen to be in the same jurisdiction he's sleeping in before his process, or her paperwork gets through. And in the 6-7 weeks, that process. And we're just talking about the benefits. Then we're talking, one of the other frustrations that we have, I'm sure, that the VSOs are going to have to take care of, because now the responsibilities were more clearly delineated and defined, is being able to get basically the appointments necessary. Let's say the individual's got the benefits already, he's got the medical, okay? And now he has to make an appointment.
Yeah.
And the appointments are made by Hawaii. And the claims agent, the individual who can decide as to whether or not a veteran is eligible because for benefits is in Hawaii. And now you said now that because now of the new ruling, okay, those veterans that have other than honorable discharge are now eligible which is going to bring more people to your fold.
That's correct.
I just don't want you to be burdened. I need to have this conversation for the purposes of public discussion so that a veteran doesn't get frustrated with your office because it took 6 or 7 weeks for Hawaii to make a decision that could be made here had a benefits adjudicator been stationed here, right?
We'll keep fighting for it. You're on the right track, sir. You're on the right track. But let me say this, in the absence of that, you know, our service reps and our employees, all of them, I take the time to meet with them at least once a week, if not once a month, and I let them understand to be patient because it's the bureaucracy of the system, right? But I always tell them be professional because these individuals come here for help. We're going to sense their frustration. We'll deal with it accordingly, but make sure you provide them the information they need to know. In the absence of what we're fighting to try to establish our own system here to be able not to have to send it off island. But it's going to be a long fight, Mr. Senator.
I understand.
And I thank you for backing us on that because
I'm going to bring this today with Mr. San Agustin, Director.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's go back into your military career. Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I was what?
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
No, I came in 79.
Oh, 79.
They wouldn't draft me.
Okay, pues Uncle Nick, you were drafted. How long did they give you to decide as to whether or not you should accept the draft? Taza, no? There's no time frame. You decide you have to go. Okay? So they're very quick to bring you in, they're very quick to kick you out, but they're very slow to provide you what they said you deserve. Okay? And I need to bring this as the part of the conversation here because you know what, in support of the bill, we also have to recognize that this is just but the root. This is just, okay? This is just the seed. We have to wait for the water and the fertilizer and everything else to be brought in, which is not in our control. I just don't want you to be blamed for it. Okay? No, you know, I was there last night with the presentation, and you know, I felt for your VSO in her presentation last night when she said, I'm booked until June 27? June 27? Okay? I can see the frustration in a veteran who now is convinced, you know, after many years of frustration and now convinced, okay, maybe I need to be able to go in, or now because he's now eligible or she's now eligible, okay, for the benefits because of the lifting of basically the restrictions, okay? Now the frustration sets in because the next appointment date is not until the latter part of June. Los Sangya is in 6 and 7 weeks of waiting. Okay? We need to bring that up as a matter of point of contention because we're doing our part. We're doing our part. I think we're all doing our part. And we've got to continue because, you know, the thing is, I don't think that a veteran anywhere else other than 3,800 miles on the other side of the international date line, at least in this portion of the world, has just as much problems and just has to wait just as long as the veterans that we have on Guam.
Sure, because of distance, we're more challenged, but I need to clarify one thing, that the process is the same, even if you were in the States providing getting help, that the process goes through the same system.
I know it goes through the same system, but you know, Mr. San Agustin, I've also talked to veterans who said they've given up on the system, not so much the system on Guam. They have actually went to other places, like in Las Vegas and Arizona, okay, went through the same system there and got quicker service from the VA. Not from the, okay, not, the VSO was the same in some cases. It was just through the VSO that they went through a different route. Not to blame you, and not to blame system we have here. I bring this up because I don't want our veterans and listening to this conversation, okay, and now seeing the opportunity to be able to now apply for their benefits, okay, not to be misled, okay, or to believe that it's going to get faster. There's still a lot of work for us to do.
That's correct.
On the other side of this. I just wanted to make sure of that, okay? So we'll do our part. And like I said, if it's getting the place to be able to sit down and be able to do this, it's one thing. It's getting the individuals, it's how the paperwork needs to go and where the paperwork needs to go. That needs to be worked on. Chief, you wanted to say something, Chief? Mr. Chair? Chief?
Yeah, can you come up and use the mic? Thank you, Joseph.
Chief, can you go ahead and just state your name for the record?
My name is Joseph C. Nicholas, President for the Veterans Organization, retired fire chief. My experience about filing a claim. In the past, several of the veterans would go do the filing themselves. Now we have ASOs and so forth. We have ASOs that have gone through a lot of trainings and so forth. But the bottom line here is when you submit your file, you're filing for a disability, a medical problem, it is based according to all the information that you are going to submit. So you have to gather all that information as a veteran, and then you request from the VSO to get the assistance of what other knowledge that they have, and then from that submission, that speeds up your filing for the claim. All these people that are trained now, I mean, they're having boot camps out here now, okay, from the HMO. And that's a good thing for the veterans, for them to know. Because if they are so conscious about, I filed my disability, but I was denied, you still got to continue filing, but continue to submit medical proof of your record and your disability. That process there goes out to the Honolulu, and or sometimes they divert it to another state. Like my other problems, it didn't go to Honolulu. It was diverted to California, Arizona, and those are some of the processes that the VA are doing. Now, sending out from here in Guam, that I know, because I haven't been going to the VA office, and because I already know my process, right? I go directly to Tijan, and from Tijan, when I filed the form, fill out the form to file for this kind of claim, they immediately send that directly to Honolulu. And then from there, when they receive that in Honolulu, it can be diverted to another veteran's site. So basically, 3 weeks to a month to a year. That's what the veteran has to understand. It's the how severe your claim is. If it's so severe and it's all there already pre-approved by the VA a long time ago, your claim will be easily accepted, and you would receive your disability. But for new things, you have to continuously to file.
And I appreciate that. So the point I was making, Chief, and I appreciate, perfect example, okay? Yeah. Your file went from Hawaii to California to Nevada and probably ended up in Philadelphia.
No, it was just, I didn't go there. It was personally,
no, your files
paperwork went
your
to those
paperwork,
process.
exactly.
Because the VA.
But I think that one of the things that we're fighting for, other than the VSO, great, we're gonna beef up our VSOs.
Right.
But what will help us
What
is,
I've always been fighting was that we should have an adjudicator here on the island, and I've done that years after years after years after years through our delegate, and I won't have to mention all the delegates.
Yeah.
But, I'm already 74, and how many years have I had that?
Yeah.
But the bottom line here is they just don't want Guam to have an adjudicator to make it easy for the island of Guam.
Well,
Period.
and that's what I'm bringing up. So that way, again, okay? Great purpose. Great reason why we should need it. Help you with the paperwork. I just don't want that now if it gets backlogged, it comes back. Joseph Agustin, you know, why is it we gave you the 6 VSOs, how come that we're still getting complaints that it's, okay? That's why we needed to have this conversation in this forum, so it's on the record, okay? So appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to also make sure that even though the speaker mentioned that my co-sponsor's not here, 2 of them are off island and 1 of them is just down here, Senator Canata. Senator Barnett, do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think Speaker Terlahi covered pretty much everything and then some, so really nothing left for me to do, but again, thank you for your service and commend the authors for the introduction of this bill. I mean, I heard Ms. Tanya Eubanks in her testimony in the oversight hearing before. She talked about the delays, the backlog, and the tremendous workload that the limited staff at the Veterans Affairs, the VA is facing. And so anything we can do to push money there so we can hire more of those people to process the claims and get them out quicker, I think is really the legislature putting your money where it should go. Right, and especially the year of the veteran or not, it's support that's long overdue for you. So again, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again for your service. Sidos Masi.
Thank you, Senator Barnett. Senator Roy, you have anything, co-sponsor?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank you guys again for your service, your family, and you guys' continuous efforts to helping resolve a lot of the veterans' issues. I know there's so many of you that are not here, but you guys' voices are, never go unheard. We see many of you, regardless of being at a funeral, a lot of engagements and functions you guys invite us to. We thank you guys for your service, and again, the generations of service. A lot of you guys continue to stay at the fight, at the forefront. Unfortunately, you guys shouldn't be fighting for your services that you should be getting, right? But we continue to advocate for you, and we'll continue to do what we can on our side and support you guys throughout all these initiatives. And I'm very proud to be a co-sponsor on this legislation, and I thank the chair for his invitation. And again, our office remains open to supporting you guys. Please let us know what we can do. Thank you again for your service.
Thank you, Senator Canata. That being said, there's no one else to present testimony on this bill, this hearing is now concluded. I want to thank everyone for attending the hearing and providing feedback and suggestion. Bill 285-37 LS, public hearing is now adjourned. The time now is 4:51. Sizus Masi, and please have a nice day. Take care. Viva Veteran!